Hello and welcome to another episode of the Playlist Podcast with me, Gemma Roots. Unfortunately, Jack couldn't join us today, but he will be on in a few episodes' time. But today, we thought that we'll kick off this year with another interview, but a little different to our normal musicians that we have on. I am joined by Kieran Scragg, also known as Fort Nowhere. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. Yes. Thank you for having me on your podcast.
Oh, no worries. For all of our listeners, did you want to introduce yourself and what you do in the music industry?
Yeah, sure. So, I very short potted history. I I was in bands from a teenager, and in my 20s, shall we say, I had some music on TV, and I toured the world with a band. Two bands. One band became another band, and then after that, once the band sort of split up, I with another guy got a song on the final Twilight movie, and then started to sort of do TV sync and film music full time after that, and from there I've basically kind of segued into writing mostly trailer music and some score, but yeah, mostly music for trailers, which is now my primary love. And I've had sort of experience of the music industry in its traditional way, with bands and record labels, and then I'm kind of more now into the sync world.
So do you prefer doing your stuff on your own for
I think when you're younger and you got loads of energy, the band stuff is really good, and life circumstances as well. I've got two kids now, so it's harder to go on tour and spend lots of time away and stuff. But I've loved both aspects of it, really. It's a really good feeling, obviously, being on stage and having people sing your songs back to you and have all that experience of an audience. But perhaps it's less stressful to be in a room with a laptop making music.
Yeah.
I think it's a more peaceful life. So yeah, I've enjoyed both, but this is for where I am in life now. This is good.
So what's the process then of making music for like trailers? Can you go on your own and do what you want to do, or is there a specific spec that you have to stick to?
Well, it varies because you have really two sort of types of trailer music that happen. One is that an editor or a music supervisor or a producer will find a piece of music that they like of yours, and that might be a band, it might be a piece of library music sat in a library, it might be something that's been sent in to them, and that music gets used and it gets kind of moved around and appears in the trailer almost without you knowing. That can be one side of it. And then the other side of it is custom work, which is bespoke music where an editor or a team that are making the trailer will bring the composer in and try to kind of marry the music and the visuals together. And I guess I've done more custom work than I have just had my songs used kind of without my knowledge, as it were, until the thing's finished. I'm more in the custom world of working with a team to make something happen, but both those things tend to happen to us that are in this industry. So
yeah, it must be quite an incredible feeling to produce a bit of music and not know that a film producer or TV producer is using your music for a trailer, and then you find out at the last minute. It must be an incredible feeling.
Yeah, it has been. It's been really nice because I've had a mixture of the two. I mean, I've known about things. I mean, one thing with this world is that there are. I mean, in lots of other jobs, there's no guarantees with the things that we do. So even though some of us are quite close to the epicenter, shall we say, of the industry, it doesn't guarantee you that your piece of music will get used. The trailer houses are often competing against each other, so it might not just be your song that's competing against other songs. It might be 4 or 5 cuts of different trailers being put towards the clients that are and the studios that are making these things. So at all turns, it's kind of like there's no guarantees, but I've had both where I've known for a long period of time that this thing might get used, and then it does, and that's a big release, because that's a bit like children going out. It's a bit like, your kids being born kind of type experience, because you've been in and around it for so long and you've known about it, keep quiet, and then it comes out and it's very exciting. And then there's times when I just get an email from my agent going, oh, by the way, this happened at the weekend, and it's a big surprise. So both things are nice. It's and both things can happen, but it can also be the case that you can work on something for a long time and it doesn't come off. So it's kind of ups and downs of both of it. It's quite, what's the word? You have to get a kind of you have to kind of be a bit more zen, like, with just how you're feeling about it all, because if you get too emotional and too involved, it's very up and down. So you'd be a bit of a wreck, I think, if you hung on to everything that might happen and might not happen. It's like a process of letting go a bit sometimes as well, just hoping that it comes off, obviously.
So you did a cover of the Verve's Bittersweet Symphony, which appeared on the trailer for season 5 of Netflix's The Crown.
Yeah.
Did you know about that beforehand?
This one I did, yes. I did. We worked on it a while, and so that The Crown has been a series that we've kind of, since season 3 onwards, I've had some involvement in the trailers, and actually with season 5, the kind of lovely outcome for me from really being involved in season 3 and 4's trailers was that the composer for The Crown got in touch with me after season 4 and asked me to help do some of the music for the show itself on season 5. So I've got some additional music credits on season 5. So that's been very exciting, because that's not something I expected to be an offshoot of having worked on the trailers. I never thought that the should we say, the people that make the whole thing kind of would come and ask me to do stuff. But that's been a pleasant surprise. But yeah, the season 5 I knew about for quite a while, and it was quite a process, quite a kind of quite a lengthy process. Lots of sort of not that we ever really changed our minds from the song choice. I think the song choice came very early on, but how it ended up, what the cut looked like and how the song comes across and how it sounds and everything, all of that changed and evolved over time. But I did know about it, so yeah, I had inside knowledge.
It's incredible that you've been working on such a big TV series, and especially for a big network like Netflix.
Yeah, it's been it's very exciting. I mean, I watched the first 2 seasons of The Crown anyway, and was a fan. It's a bit it's been as strange with we did the teaser for season 2 of The Witcher as well, and that was just as crazy an experience, because I'm a massive fan of the game. Loved the books, loved what Netflix did with the first season. I was very excited, like everybody else, sort of, for season 2, and thinking, oh, where's it going? I'm reading all the internet rumors and this, that, and the other. And then this opportunity comes up, and it's like, do you want to do the music? Do you want to try music for this teaser? And again, we weren't entirely sure whether or not it would come off, and wasn't in control of whether or not it would happen. But it did drop, and it did come out, and our remix of Fleet Foxes Your Protector was used in the end. And it's just you sit there kind of going, the people that made it, we were just sort of saying, it's nuts really that you sit there the whole time and all this stuff is happening and you're just looking at it from a fan perspective. It's like, yeah, I love The Crown, love The Witcher, and then you find yourself sort of in the world, kind of a part of it. It's it's a strange experience, but a very nice one. It's it was almost my ambition to try and work on things of that size, because when you do, I mean, as was the case with Twilight, once you're involved in something that has a fan base that is just so enormous and so all-consuming, and the opinions and the kind of the passion with which people love these things, once you get kind of in the middle of it, it's fascinating to watch kind of the opinions and the love for it kind of you feel it feels a little bit more scary, I suppose, with something like The Witcher, because it was I can't see the Crown fans coming for me, if I get something wrong, but it felt more like that with The Witcher. Like, okay, we've got to get this right, because the tone's got to be right, and this is a big moment that they're going to reveal what season 2 sort of looks like. So the pressure was on a bit more with that, I think.
So what other projects have you worked on in the past then, apart from those 2 programs?
So I've done I had some music on Death on the Nile movie, the Kenneth Branagh one. And I also did a remix for The Many Saints in Newark, which was The Sopranos. A prequel. And up until then, I suppose it was more TV music, Grey's Anatomy and One Tree Hill and Vampire Diaries and things like that. So there was I had a spate in the 2000s where the music was ending up in TV shows, as it were. Whereas now I am a bit more trailer focused, even though some of that tips over into getting music used in show as well. I've done a fair few things. I started out really, my production side of things started out with adverts for hotels. Was where I cut my teeth. I spent hours in my studio on the edge of Dartmoor with the wind and rain howling outside as I cut to this footage of people getting in and out of pools and walking or riding horses down beaches and stuff in Cancun. And I was there trying to kind of make this kind of I don't know, Cancun sounding EDM, should we say, for these adverts. So I was learning on the job as I was going, and it was that was quite intense, but it gave me sort of a really good prep for how trailer music works as well, because advertising trailer music quite similar, quite kind of similar pressures, similar time scales, turn things around quickly, you've got to come up with ideas quickly. So all of that was a really good practice for then going into the trailer world, as it were.
So you've worked on quite a lot of projects. One thing I do want to ask is if you could have produced any music for any TV show or film, what would it have been?
What would it have been? Probably the score for Blade Runner 2049.
Oh, brilliant.
Because I find it as if I just keep watching it as a film all the time. And one of the reasons I watch it all the time is just because the score is so phenomenal. And I wouldn't be able to better it, but I love the idea of a 3-hour kind of sci-fi epic. If I could get my teeth into that, that would be the kind of territory I suppose I would be. I'd be really into. So I'm very jealous of Hans and Benjamin for producing something. So I mean, they must have been, it must have been so much fun to do that and kind of come up with sounds and stuff, because the visuals they were getting back, same with June. You imagine seeing that footage and just thinking, wow, I get to make music for this.
If it wasn't for scores, a score can make or break a movie or TV show.
Yeah.
And what you do is just incredible.
It's yeah, it's, and I think the thing with it as well in the trailer world in particular is that I mean, it can be the same in the film world, that not so much these days, but back in the day, music was always the afterthought. It was the finish the film and then get someone to write a bunch of music afterwards. And that's really changed now with modern filmmaking and modern advertising campaigns. They are much more aware of the power of music. And you look at the film like Joker and see the way that the score was integrated into that, and they're filming and listening to the score at the same time, that kind of a thing, whereas a lot of influence that happens, I think we're in a better place now. It's more exciting, and the same with the trailer world. That's what we love, is kind of being at the early stage and having an idea. And because for us with Bittersweet Symphony and The Crown, it was always, it was the song that Emma, the music supervisor, kind of came to me with first, and she had a list of songs, and there was this track, and we were thinking about the themes, we were thinking about what I know about the story, what I know about the series that was coming and everything. And you just think about the royal family, how you can make something sound regal, how you can make it sound fitting the world of The Crown. And that string part is just so kind of beautiful and almost regal in itself. It's like you can imagine the Queen walking into it. That you sort of, we knew that there was something there that would work, but like as soon as I thought, I'm a million different people from one day to the next. That's such a great, we didn't use that line in the end, but it's such a great line for them as a family, and experience, and I'll take you down the only road I've ever been down, and all those lines that were just coming out of the song. We were like, it has to be this one. It can't. We almost literally couldn't find an alternative. It was like, no, this is a song that will go with these visuals. And that's what I love. I love that, finding that moment where you marry the music and the idea, and you paint the narrative, and then people go, oh wow, you have sold me this show. This is something I have to see. I have to, or I have to sit, and I have to subscribe to Netflix to see this. So if people feel like that we've done our job, haven't we? That's the key.
Yeah. So you probably can't talk about this, but have you got any future plans in terms of your music?
Well, as far as, I'm trying to put together a solo album of my own stuff, which of course just gets interrupted continuously by other things, which I'm very about, obviously. I've worked on a bunch of tracks which may or may not attach to things this year. I don't have a huge amount of control, but I've done a lot of stuff. And I always generally find out, there might be something in contention. So I might know that I'm reasonably close to something happening. None of which I can talk about, like you say. But we're I think releasing some solo stuff. I've been collaborating with a lot of people too, collaborations that will come out this year. And hopefully with the collaborations, my agent's always pitching them to trailers. So it could be that I just, I pop up on my own, but sometimes I'm popping up with other people being guest vocals, or it's their song and I've produced it, whatever. So yeah, there's a load of that coming, and a bunch of other stuff. I would be, I don't know what they'd do to me if I talked about it in public. I'd probably be taken to the what's the Tower of London or something.
Yeah.
You can get the idea. But it's it's just trying to just do as much as possible. Basically, it's what, once I'm in this, now that I'm in this world, it's really addictive, and it's really like, once you have something like The Crown or The Witcher or whatever, how you like, I want more. I want to go on red carpets. I want to be attached to cool stuff. I want to hear that music coming back through a cinema speaker. It's I've not yet. I had the experience of seeing Twilight in the cinema, was amazing, and it was at the UK premiere in a kind of big old theatre. But so far, like with all the trailers that I've been part of, I haven't actually been in a cinema where they've shown. So it's been a bit disappointing, because I've had friends like, oh, I've just to see, whatever it was, and your trailer came on and it sounded amazing. I was like, yeah, that's great, thanks. Maybe I'll go and I need to go to the cinema more often, obviously, is what it's telling me. But yeah, that's another experience I'd like to have. I'll have to just go and buy a ticket probably to something I don't even want to see, just to be able to see if I can hear my own music, but yes, those are my plans.
So now that you've established yourself in the industry, one thing that we do like to ask the musicians that we have on the show is if you could give some advice to someone thinking about doing what you're doing.
Yeah, sure. So I think with all music, like any creative pursuit, basically. If I think about my friends that have done similar things, it's a cliche, I know, but determination to kind of get back up off the canvas every time you're knocked out is a big part of it, because there's something really unfortunately like brutal about pursuing anything in a creative field kind of in a serious way. There's something about, I don't know whether the universe doesn't like it or something, but I just know that kind of those obstacles you got to get over. It is all about the kind of getting back up. It's so much more about getting back up than kind of spending too much time lying down being knocked out. It's that thing of like getting back on the bike, when you've had a big disappointment, or someone's let you down, or you've your band split up, or whatever it is. I've had some low moments in my life. My band split up and I was back in a factory, working at 5 o'clock in the morning, cutting sheets of plastic, staring at a clock for 8 hours. I've been there. I've been in those moments, and it should, hopefully it's like a drive for you, like, so you can take those moments and go, that's gonna make me work harder, because I think working hard is about the only thing that most of us can do. It's you can have talent, but the hard work is sort of so much of it, really, I guess. And I think the other thing is just to make sure that you rely on your imagination, I think, is a big one for me. Like, I think imagination's like a really underrated thing, and it's a big part of all creative industries, but in particular music, and in particular the world of sync. You've got to be able to imagine something working. You've got to imagine something into being. You've got with film and TV music, you've got a blank slate, and you've got to go from that blank slate into something coming back at you that moves people and inspires people and makes people want to see something. So it's all the same. You're getting a reaction out of people, and I think so much of that comes from just having the imagination to go, what if I do this? And I think those two things, that hard work and imagination, if you pair them together, that's what a lot of my friends have in the traits that my friends have. I see those qualities in them, kind of like, yeah, because it's really easy to give up. It's really easy to want to quit and find an easier life and find an easier thing to do. It's yeah, it's kind of, I don't know. I know I'm not really selling music here, am I? I'm not. I'm making it sound like it's torture. No, it's not. It's just the pursuit of it can be tough. You just dig deep and get yourself back up. And we've all been there. I think that's the reassurance, is that anybody, if you talk to anybody who has, I'm not going to say made it, I haven't made it, but, somebody that's able to do something for a living, they all have the same stuff in common. They will all have been in those lows, there will always be a story behind the work. And it's generally, the people that dug deep and carried on that are the ones that are able to do it. So yeah, that's my, I don't know whether that's helpful, whether it's depressing.
It's really good advice. I really understand what you're going on about, and yeah, a lot of people will have that connection in, especially anybody that works in a creative industry. It is very hard.
And it's very, very competitive and very kind of something unique to music in some senses, I think, because I'm not saying that music is more vulnerable than say stand-up comedy. I mean, like maybe, you know, stand-up I always think of like solo actors and stand-up comics as being possibly the hardest thing you could do, maybe. But there is something in music about bearing your soul and the vulnerability it takes to kind of show off something that you've made that you feel personally proud of or happy about, and that being shown to the world, and then you having to deal with the world's reaction. I think that's it's kind of quite a brave thing to do in lots of ways. So I think just that kind of understanding of it's I mean, one of the things that I've learned recently, which I, you know, probably my biggest lesson, even though you wouldn't think it, like if you think about someone's kind of progression from, you know, by being in a band to, like, you know, becoming a producer to becoming, you know, a composer or whatever, is that it's all right to fail, you know. It's all right to make mistakes, it's all right to not get things right, and then you learn from them, and then you kind of move on, because you'd be your mind would be blown at the top end of everything, how much experimentation takes place, you know, how much kind of, let's try something, oh no, that doesn't work, let's try, you know, this, let's try something else. People are kind of, I think they're just expecting perfection, but art isn't like that. Art is about kind of wrestling it out of the sky somehow, isn't it, and tying it down so that people you know, like Pharrell Williams talked about, you know, grabbing it out of the universe. I think he's talking about kind of music being like that rather than coming from within you, which I think is a really good description. You know, it's so kind of circumstance based somehow. I don't quite understand it, but yeah, the idea that you can make mistakes, you can fail, you can try things and they don't work, but that doesn't stop you. Don't give up after that. You just keep going, you keep trying again, and then something clicks, and that's for me, that's what music's all about. Music is playing, it's experimenting, it's trying stuff, and at some point something happens, and then what you make someone else hears and they go, that's great, you know. Yeah, for me that's a lesson for me, because I always just think people at the top know exactly what they're doing, you know, and it's like and it's like, oh, they got sorted, you know, these people are professionals, they know what they're doing, you know. But it's still a process of trial and error, it's still a process of experimenting. So yeah, I've learned a lot in my journey.
Well, that is something for all of our listeners to have a think about. Kieran, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So for anyone that is wanting to find you on social media, where can we find you?
I am on Instagram. I think I am just /Fort Nowhere. Didn't we double check that? So like, they're good at it. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think so. I think Facebook, I'm Fort Nowhere Music. I'll have to check that. But like I said, I'm not I'm not good. But yeah, it's Twitter's Fort Nowhere as well. So in general, if you type in Fort Nowhere and look for me on various things, I'll be there.
Oh, brilliant. So to all of our listeners out there, thank you for listening, and we will catch you on the next episode.